Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team, the last meeting. There's a little point of emphasis there. Did you notice that? Okay. Anyway, we ran from officially August 2020 through December of 2025, and today is none other than December 11th, 2025. The agenda is pointed out there. Chair opening comments. I got a couple of things to say. Then we're going to get to hear from Kelly and maybe tag team Barb if she's willing to jump in here on this. um, One call concepts. Sonia and Adam will tell us a little bit about where things are with the X-ray Site-Xray product implementation. And then Bob and I will wander on through where we are in the final putting the bow on FuzionView and the field data collector. And then we got some time at the end for questions and answers. Rake us over the coals, whatever. Kelly, the floor is yours. There it is. Opening comments.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us for this last meeting today. We're excited to move forward with this project in the future, but also to put a conclusion on this effort. So thanks for everyone's participation over the years and for those I've gotten a chance to work with more closely over the last year or so. As mentioned, Barb Cedarberg is joining us today she's going to be helping us out a little bit in Minnesota as we move forward. She'll talk more about that. And we're just looking forward to kind of providing a preview of where we go from here.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Uh, then we move on to me and my typewriter. Um, the only thing I have for you, just an expanded note. Um, Barb and Dean grabbed Bob and myself and Troy Schultz, who's also on the call here, and we had our first meeting out at Centerpoint Energy back in October of 2019. So there's an additional year on the front of us going back and forth as to how we are going to try to make this thing work. But I would like to extend a sincere thank you to everyone that's been involved in this. And to the degree that you can take a screenshot or whatever, there's kind of the structure of where things will be going forward. I believe. Barb, do you still have an active Gopher State One call address?
No, I just have a personal address.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So,
just fine.
okay, well, that's bogus information up there, and Barb will maybe illuminate us on how she wants to move things forward in terms of what her involvement might be going forward. So there you got at the top there, Gopher State One call, Kelly and Barb. The one call concepts, uh, Adam Franco and Sonia Miles. There's their contact information. And then for the software itself, outside of it being implemented at One Call Concept slash Gopher State One Call, you can rattle my cage at Share Geo, or if you want to talk tech stuff, there's the information for Bob. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay, good. Once again, a very sincere thank you to everybody that's tuned in today and has helped us in the past. That takes us now to Gopher State One call, Site-Xray, operational implementation plan. I think that means you, Kelly. Are
Yes.
you ready to, ready to go?
Yes. Yeah. I don't have any slides, but I was just going to talk through a few things that we're going to be looking at as we move forward in terms of operationalizing this in Minnesota. So Adam and Sonia will talk about this, but we're at the point of implementation in our system with OCC, and so we're able to actually move forward now and start kind of making this a real thing. Over the next year or two, we're going to, and as long as it takes, frankly, we're going to be working to bring more folks on board, with the special focus on smaller operators and municipalities who have shown a great interest in this project as a way to alleviate some of their workload with sharing, especially in design requests, sharing maps, etc. So that's going to be a big focus as we move forward, as well as continued outreach to associations and affiliate partners throughout the state, that can serve as validators for the project going forward. Our marketing is really going to revolve around those types of association events, but also direct outreach to these municipalities, small operators, and our pioneer partners, obviously. And Barb's going to talk about that in a minute. But it's going to be a long process, and we're going to continue to keep reaching out to people and doing conferences, speaking engagements, as well as, being able to do exhibitor booths and then really focusing on that direct outreach to people and trying to get on the phone with them or get in front of them to show them how great this project is, and hopefully signing on over time. Our hope, I think, also is that, for a metaphor, the proof is in the pudding, right? Like once we have more folks signed on and more communities with a good crop of data, in each of these places, we can see the benefit of it as time goes on, and more people will be invested and want to join in and buy in. Um, I think the one note here on agreements has obviously been a huge discussion point for all of us over the last few years, predating me as well, about how we manage the control of information with regard to on the operator side, but also on the end user side. And so we've worked over the last few months with Hinshaw's team to put together some pretty strong user agreements, both for facility operators that help to provide the parameters for them in sharing the information, but also with end users, to kind of like put guardrails on the use of that information and be able to build out a system that allows us to have operators controlling who can see the data and what data they can see. And so we're going to continue to improve upon those, but we have a really good place to start, in terms of getting folks to sign on to those agreements, and that's already begun. And then the last thing I'll mention is uh, I'll pass it to Barb actually. Wanted to talk a little bit about our pioneer partners. We're now in a place to actually move forward and get folks moving on this and hopefully test this out and get more contractors, excavators in the system. So Barb, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing? And then
Yes, hello, everybody. Nice to see you again. It's been a year. I can't believe that. But when I heard a couple months ago where this project was at, I called up Kelly and said, do you need a little help stimulating the pioneer partners to look at it now that it's almost implemented? And now you'll hear today that it's fully implemented into one called Concepts. So what they agreed with me to do is make introductions, follow up with the pioneer partners, and see what help and assistance they need to get on board. A lot of their information is already in the system, but how do they need help with the agreements? And do they have five contractors that they'd like to put in? Start with five and say, okay, let's approve these five contractors with your data and see how it goes. So my role is a facilitator, all the implementation, all of the follow-up in terms of connecting and tech support will be with Gopher State One Call. But they felt they needed a little bit of help with just this facilitation of moving the needle. So over the rest of this month in January and February, and maybe into March, how many of these pioneer partners can we get to start using the system with some of their contractors? So that's my commitment, is to help Kelly and Adam and the teams move forward in this slow and steady way.
Okay. Does that wrap it up, Kelly?
Yes, it does, I think, unless anybody has any questions.
There we go. Okay. No questions at this time. Uh,
Are there any Pioneer partner folks on the call? Because I can't really see everybody here. Um,
I'm looking.
I don't. Well, if you are, I'll be calling you. Thank you. And if you're not, I'll be calling you.
And just a note too for those in Minnesota, we will have a session at the Minnesota Transportation Conference in March at the River Center in St. Paul. So look for us there if you have the opportunity.
And
Real quick,
I guess if you're interested and not a Pioneer partner, let us know as well, and we'll start working with you. So it's not just Pioneer partners, but that's a place for us to start, rather than start cold calling additional people right now.
Very
real
easy to
quick,
become a Pioneer partner. There's agreements to sign and a link that you need to provide from your GIS system. Very easy for onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, thank you. That takes us down to next up. I think that means that's going to be you, Adam, and Sonia.
Sure. So Sonia's actually going to do live demos. We were working through, there was a little hiccup on the shared geo server that they were resolving right before the call, but I believe she just sent me a message that she's going to be able to show it live. Is that correct, Sonia?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay,
Be able to show it
excellent.
live.
So Steve, if you could let her take over sharing, I'll lead us in while she sets that up. Barb and Kelly pretty much covered it very thoroughly as far as the rollout plan goes. So I'm not expecting we'll have a ton of movement in December, but December, January, February, our goal is to get those Pioneer partners set up in the system so that they can start receiving live tickets or start delivering live tickets with their map data shared to the identified excavators that they've approved. So pretty exciting to be sitting where we are here after 5 years of working on this project, seeing it ready to go out the door. What Sonia is going to show you is just a brief overview of what the implementation looks like in the OCC system. I will note, this is the first implementation for OCC for Minnesota, and Minnesota is going to be the first one active on this system. But we are building this engine out for all of our one call centers that we partner with across the country. So ultimately, when this project is complete for us, this functionality should exist in as many as 17 states. Minnesota is really the testing ground. We expect that there's going to be a lot of feedback and a lot of opportunity for enhancements based on this initial run with the Pioneer partners. But we're very excited to start that process and get things rolling forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sonia, and she'll show you how things look.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to kind of show you a couple of things where we are with implementation within our OCC applications and what we've been doing in partnership with the folks there, Steve and his team over at Shared Geo, and then kind of show you what our vision is or what we're working toward as kind of our next steps. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. If you're not familiar with it, just this is the live demo. So work with me here. But this is basically where we are with the project. So within our application, this would be a user that has access. So again, within our application, based on those agreements and expectation accesses, we control the users that would be able to see this data. In this case, we're going to go ahead and pull up a ticket. And today you see I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth just a little bit. But right now you see the excavation polygon and in this case, a test member polygon in this area. Right now today, we would then link over to, oh, hang on a second. Oh, Bob.
Is that the
Let me grab
issue
another
from
ticket.
earlier?
Yeah, he had it sorted a minute ago.
Yeah, you just
Is
hit a
Bob-
ticket that didn't have any features on it. So.
Well, it didn't even pop up and say that it didn't have any features. So I don't know that that's the case. Because if so, I should have got a message back that said no features. I'm sorry. Stand by 1 second, folks. This is why we should have followed Steve's lead, and I should have did it as just a slideshow in his deck. So I apologize. But let's try another one.
Yeah.
So here we're showing the excavation polygon, and then we show a 100-foot buffer, just like we would. We're not showing any data.
Yeah, I'd say jump to your slides, Sonia.
Let me go to my slides. Stand by 2 seconds. I'm sorry. Goodness.
Unless you have a quick fix, Bob, we'll just show it on the slides.
I did send Sonia a couple links that are valid, so if you could just paste them in there.
I feel like we're cursed every time we do one of these, and we have Barb or Kelly. Otherwise we could do them all day and they're perfect. They work lovely. And then we get into this situation. While Bob is sending that, let me share my screen again. And what I want to show you is we'll go into a little bit more. Did you send it, Bob? No. I'll go into a little bit more of how this thing works today, and I'll just come back to this. Basically, what we should be doing here is taking that same excavation polygon, again, bounce over to this one, same excavation polygon that was generated in the one call center that is also aligned here in this solid line. Minnesota has a 100-foot buffer that they would like to show beyond the excavation. And in a couple of moments here, hopefully, we'll be able to sort of show you what that looks like, where it's actually going to show feature sets out just outside of that excavation polygon.
You should have it in your mailbox.
Okay. Well, Sonia's pulling that up. So this is dynamic. The buffer is entirely contained within the Site-Xray system or the FuzionView system. So any one call center can determine how much of an area they want to display. In the case of Minnesota, we wanted to show the additional 100 feet so that if the features were outside of the excavation entity, but nearby, there would be a trigger to alert the excavator that there are nearby facilities that they may not be aware of. So it just expands that coverage, but that's entirely up to each individual one call center. Some may do no buffer, some may do, 500 feet. That's going to be up to them to decide.
Yeah, so let me show you here how it looks. Hopefully it's resizing. Obviously this is a very busy area that Bob picked, which is kind of nice in that I want to show you a couple of things, and we'll drill it down some. The user would have the option to see the number of features that are being shared within this view based on the different providers and the type of facility or layers that they have made available on this ticket. So in this case, I'm going to turn off the water and just show you the sewers and drains. And again, just to kind of point out, because I think that this is kind of important. I love this feature about this is that it's showing you, okay, here's the excavation the excavation area as determined by the user. And then just outside of that, just a little bit, it shows anything else that would be in the area. So ideally, if I was working here in this area, I would say, woo, wait a minute, there's some additional stuff in the area. Not necessarily, you don't belong to be digging outside of that area, but just to give you an idea that, there's some things there. I think that this is, hopefully it's going to be very fruitful for users, especially in the engineering space where they're thinking about putting something maybe in the area and they're like, okay, that's already so overcrowded, I'm not even going to bother considering it. Just a couple of other things to kind of show you the features that have been built within this FuzionView engine. Again, I touched on the layers. Some of the other things that the user has the ability to do is if they wanted to click on one of those features, it will bring up additional data, who is sharing that particular feature, the ticket number that's associated within the one call center. And then some of the other kind of, obviously all this stuff is important, right? But some of the other things that providers have the ability to share is the level of accuracy. So some will say it's sub-meter, some will even say, it's hand-drawn. Each provider has the ability to attach that data with each and all any of these feature segments. So hopefully as technology continues to grow and folks are getting more and more digital, you'd see some differences there.
And those Those are user designated. So the data provider determines the quality level of the data. We do not validate that. We don't have a way to verify it. So it's entirely, self-reporting, but they can designate that, which we think is important for the end user consuming that data to understand, are we talking sub-meter, sub-inch, or are we talking about, a drawing from an old plat?
So with that, just a couple of other features to kind of touch on and where the system is today. Obviously, they can zoom to the ticket boundary. So if they wanted to zoom back out, they have that option. There's also some measurement tools, so distance and area measurements that the user has the ability to kind of see right here, like interactive on their screen. They also can zoom in, and it's showing you like within how many feet and meters you're zoomed in.
Can you, Sonia, can you swap the map view too? The base map view?
Yep. Yeah, that was the last thing I was going to show.
Sorry.
They also have the OpenStreetMaps, and then they can share this as an aerial view. I'll zoom out just to kind of show you. So again, it does some shading and shows the user within that area, the topography. Yep. So in essence, that's in a nutshell kind of where that piece of the system is. I'd like to just, if I can, go back over and just kind of show you like what our next steps are and kind of what we're doing for some of the integration aspects of things. So again, in GSOC, this is being rebranded, or some of their branding for their piece is called Site-Xray. So if you hear us talking about Site-Xray, or Barb is just saying that when she's chatting with you guys, just know that GSOC has came out with a fantastic name for it. So we're going to be making some changes whereby we'll change this link. And again, right now the users are routed over to this type of view. The next things that OCC is working to do is actually, once we get everything ready, we're going to be integrating it right here into this map. So much like the user today can turn on and off feature sets, that option will also be built right here within the map view. And that's going to be one of the next options that OCC does in partnership and on behalf of GSOC.
Yep. Just to piggyback on that, for folks like James who are looking at this from a one call center perspective, the integration that Sonia is referring to here, we'll be displaying it, obviously on our maps once we have the Pioneer partners built into the system. But what she was showing previously, if you want to jump back to the FuzionView view that you were displaying there, that's actually part of the engine that is provided as the open source product for FuzionView. So if you didn't want to do full integrations, you can still use this. It would just link to an outside browser or open a new window, and you'd have access to the same views that exist here.
So that's in a nutshell, kind of. I know it kind of went over. It was a little clunky, and I apologize for that. Is there any questions or anything you'd like us to show you or dig into a little bit more?
Yeah, the integration, Sonia, what's the timeline on that?
We don't have an official date yet, but it's a 2026 project. We're hoping that in Q1 we'll be able to hammer down delivery dates and targets for that, Barb.
Thank you. Thank you.
I did want to add a little thing on to the end of what Sonia showed you there. The reason that she was having problems is that we don't have any Pioneer partner data sets that are complete coverages of the state. So the particular thing you're looking at there was in Eden Prairie. So we have all data inside the Eden Prairie. It's only 1 or 2 data sets. We've got some stuff from the state that goes up along the highways. So if you don't really know where the data exists behind the scenes, sometimes you're jumping around into tickets that basically don't have any data that has been retrieved yet. So that's what the problem was. Everything was working fine.
I had a question. This is James Wingate from USA North 811. I put it in the chat, but Sonia, when you were zoomed in showing that storm drain, and you clicked the identify, can you zoom in where you are now?
Yeah.
Just click one. Yeah. At the bottom, it says the size 0.2032. Would you consider cleaning up that label? So is that like outside diameter of the pipe? And what is the unit of measurement for the 0.2032? Is that feet or something like that?
Bob, I think you should answer that because that would be an outside of the OCC. setup?
Yeah, right now that's actually a system configuration point, and I think right now it's feet. So the values actually be converted in the import of the data. We can put that in there as a part of the pop-up there. What you're looking at here is the demo presentation layer, I guess you would call it, for the project. This isn't necessarily what OCC is going to implement long term. So this was just our project, displaying the data in a cursory form. So this whole piece of the application can be customizable however you want it to do it.
But I think, Bob, the core question is that meant to represent the conduit or pipe diameter? That's the data that it's pulling from the GIS system, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So whatever the data provider is pushing out, it's representing that data that they want to push out. So as far as whether or not, I mean, we've had different discussions about this on how to handle this, but you have to worry about things like pipe thicknesses and all that kind of stuff, especially like a sewer pipe. It's like, okay, is this an outside diameter or inside diameter? And what we ended up coming to the conclusion of is we've got that hand digging buffer there that kind of takes up all of that, so we don't have to necessarily get specific about it, or how do I want to say it? Worry about it, 99%. But that's kind of the route that we took. If you need something more descriptive in there, that's where we can kind of have more discussions down the line.
Yeah, I think the point was what's the unit of measure is important.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it was feet. Sorry.
And then maybe adding, diameter instead of size or something like that. I think that's logical. It's a good point, James.
Yeah, that right there is, I think, 2.5 inches.
I'm just going to say, not trying to be critical, just meant to give feedback that would help it be user-friendly. Because if I'm an excavator and I see size 0.2032, I don't know what that means. So that's what I'd ask. Yeah.
It's a good one.
Any more comments or questions?
Okay, I'll try this. Brad here. Hey, Bob, quick question. The screen showed that data was from Eden Prairie, I believe. Just out of curiosity, how many different types of utility do you have from the city of Eden Prairie?
As many as they want.
Well, that's not my question. How many do you have?
Oh, right now? I think we just have 2 layers.
Okay. Are you aware that Hennepin County's got a countywide project of bringing in all the utility data for, well, actually construction projects around the county? So are they aware of this tool?
We have not had any communication with them. We don't have any problem with communicating with them, but
well, again, so every city in Hennepin County is actually, when there's a construction project in our area, bringing in the utility data to the Hennepin County system.
Well, I think it would make sense to somehow brief Hennepin County on this capability and where it's at.
Yeah, so, Lisa Cerny is the starting point there. So
maybe if you could help facilitate, Brad. No,
Barb, I'll give her your email. I don't want to tell Lisa how to do these things, so we'll talk offline, Barb. Okay.
Thank you, thank you, Brad. In my email, I put in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Any more comments? Going once, going twice.
I got one more little thing there. On that size thing, I didn't think about it now, but because of the way that we do the implementation of pulling the data provider's data into the FuzionView system, they actually have the option of throwing the units on the end of their entities from their side as well. So we can actually put that right on the end of the number. So it would be like feet or meters. There's a mechanism to do that. And it would be the same. They could even, it would even facilitate mixed units of measurement. In other words, if they've got some things in feet or some things in meters, the system actually would handle that.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I know I probably asked this in the past too. So I come from a contractor engineering firm. And so what is on the table or the future not on being able to, either take some of this data out and put it in our own system with our other data sets, or, being able to, on the fly, put some of our data sets in here so we can see how things line up together.
Are you asking if that's a possibility, or?
I'm asking if it's a current possibility, and if not, is it on the table still? Because ultimately, we have tons of our own data sets that we're trying to design with this in mind. And, we don't want, the guys don't want to look at two screens back and forth trying to see how they line up.
Yeah, Sonia, can you click on that I button up on the top?
And let me just comment
Inside
on
the
that as
interface?
well,
Yeah.
unless Kelly has something to say. But
There's just click on the downloads.
No,
pull
that's
down.
that's perfect. That's what I was hoping you'd have.
Yep.
Yep. That's fantastic then.
Oh, yeah, but we need to clarify this because this was discussed during the last leadership meeting in November. We came to I should say the decision was made that for the time being, this capability will not be live.
I was just going to say the same. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, because we're effectively at a point where through the introduction, we're concerned that people will begin to get paranoid about their data being out there. So we first think we need to get our feet on the ground with the system availability, and then, if you will, the community can force the issue going forward.
Well, and that's why I was also wondering if there was any talk about, so like in the Esri suite, we have the ability where our project managers can put in a KMZ file that doesn't actually copy any data into our system, but on the fly, while they're in the browser, they can see that laying on top of the map. And I can see a similar function here where, if you're worried, they're worried about people scraping their data out of the system, the ability to put something in. So they're just not doing they want to see how it overlays, right?
Understood. Yeah. Would you be so kind as to shoot a email to Bob with your thought packaged, if you
Sure.
will? Yeah. And do you have Bob's email address?
I have Bob's email address.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Damon and I go back a ways.
And I'll just say, David, from our side, we haven't explored that yet, but it's an interesting concept. It's something that we do in other areas, so
Right.
maybe of interest for OCC as well.
Yeah, because we'd have the same fear too, right? We don't want to load data in that gets out to the wild either, because we have contracts of confidentiality ourselves. But at the same time, our engineers want to see how it stacks on top of each other, not look at two screens and do their best.
Yeah, you're just looking for a temporary overlay.
Correct.
All in one
Correct.
place.
Yeah, just so that if we're designing something, we can see if it's how it's all the obvious things we're thinking.
I think great feedback. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything more? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Thank you so much, Sonia. Really appreciate it. And Adam, thanks.
Of course. Sorry, it was a little clunky.
Oh, you were just fine. You're just fine. Okay, it takes it down to me blabbing for a little bit here. What I'm going to talk to you about is where we are on the actual release of what you just looked at from the open source side, where, to steal a term there that was just used, it will be released into the wild. We are feverishly working on finishing out the open source website to include all the materials that will be posted there. I would ask you, the documents are going to get filled into our slots, but they will be in draft form and they're going to be draft watermarked. So I'm asking you to please not run off with them. We will let everybody know when the documents have been fully approved by the group. You can anticipate that to be completed by the end of this month. But this will be the hub site, if you will, of information for the open source product that anybody can come along and grab and do what they want with. And you need to give Barb a big round of applause because putting this into the open source world was Barb's idea from the get-go and has done much to facilitate making that happen. So the range of the materials that will be there, we are going to make a first run through to clean things up so they're FuzionView generic. And by a handshake agreement that we have with OCC and GSOC, they're going to come through and make sure we don't step on anybody's toes or don't appropriately recognize something. But you can see there the range of the materials that will be there. I would anticipate you will see much of this work get recycled and rebranded as Site-Xray, but probably done in a little bit better fashion since OCC has an outstanding graphics art department. But the range of what will be there will be the general brochure that's up here. There will be a rebuild of what we call the decision maker document that will help the folks further up the food chain figure out if this is something they actually want to get involved with. We're currently working on 5 different sheets that walk you through different elements of the use of FuzionView, what the technical specs are, all of that kind of stuff. And the design was that, yeah, you can look at a lot of this stuff will be available online through the hard work of Karen Couch Breyer on getting that stuff available. So you'll have it both as a, if you will, electronic version, as well as the ability to download similar documents that will be in PDF style. You'll also be able to find the link out to where the GitHub repository will be, where the software will be available for download. And last but not least, Kelly helped me get smart about the importance of having a branding guide. And so you'll be able to see how you can use the FuzionView label if you run off and are setting up your own system somewhere. We've done much like the whole project, very liberal allowance to be able to use things. We just ask in some cases for you to be sensitive to the fact that the outcome of the product here has been, if you will, the input of lots of people and lots of hard work, and we'd appreciate it if you'd respect that. This probably is something that I think across the spectrum is probably one of the more important slides that we've ever put up, simply because let me put it this way. I'm hopeful that as I work through this, you'll come to understand how there can be this split in the road with OCC running one version of what is FuzionView, as they label it Site-Xray, and us continuing to beat the drum for the open source product, which as we well know, is called FuzionView. So we're required both by our contract with the Gopher State One Call and PHMSA, we are required to release FuzionView as an open source product. The project focus for us is the underground community. Project management, what does that mean? What it means is that there needs to be, if you will, somebody that is the, what do you want to call it? The godfather or the, whatever. Somebody that has got a little money in the bank that can keep the project alive, to be able to fund what's known as a project steering committee. And what the project steering committee's function will be, and anybody can join the project steering committee, is to be the management of the code, to make the determination of who can contribute code, what form does it need to look like. And again, Bob can illuminate this a little bit more than what I'm relating here, but to have a structure for the project steering committee, there will be project guidance that will be in the form of the project steering committee standard operating procedure. And right now, that document originally was drafted at 40 pages long, and Bob and team are whittling it down to have it a little bit more concise. And you can expect that again, as the product gets released as an open source product, that this document will also be available for review, and it sets up, what the process is going to be going forward for managing it and how it happens. Currently, the code maintenance and the improvement funding for the open source product itself is really down to donations of money and time. As it sits right now, there is no scheduled funding going forward after the end of the year. And so on the website, you'll see there's the ability to donate money to the project to keep the code active and improvements being done to it, things of that nature. Code commitment, I've already beat that up a little bit, will be project steering committee managed. The code repository will be on this open source platform called GitHub. And then the endorsement standard, is anybody going to come along and endorse it? In this model, as it currently sits, the answer is no one will be endorsing it. But as the project develops over time, and you have to go through a series of steps in what's known as incubation, the potential is there for it to get endorsed by the Open Source Geospatial Foundation. And so that's OSGeo, and many of you, well, I believe a few of you at least, are aware of that organization, and it sets the standard more or less for open source products that are endorsed. And then there's the thing called whether or not it is a true open source product or not. And that typically gets a stamp of approval if you're using a license release that is endorsed by an entity known as Open Source Initiative. And again, we're still working right now on the exact language for the release. They are working through it as I'm speaking to you, actually. And then finally, the contracting entity. Well, Shared Geo built the original project, but that doesn't mean you have to work with Shared Geo. Because it's open source, it will mean that any other programming open source shop or whatever that's out there can take the code and do work on it. So, we'd love to have you come knock at the door at Shared Geo, but if there's others that you think can do a better job, because it is open source, you have that opportunity. So here are the key takeaways.
I have a question, Steve. Can you go back
Yep.
one?
Yep, sure can, Barb.
So as this next phase within Shared Geo, what if you have competing priorities? You've got several different people using the open source, but they want 3 different improvements all at the same time. Who manages those decisions in this format that you have?
Yeah.
Whoever coughs up the money.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Barb.
Yeah.
Let me jump in here, Steve.
Let me go first.
From the perspective of the project, the PSC is going to manage what and how things get packaged and put back out. The people that are contributing the money, they get to prioritize which things that the PSC, and that's generally how all open source projects work. So if somebody brings money in, the items that they want to have added in, there's stuff is going to get priority, and the PSC will act as kind of like the managing group. I did want to add too that the PSC it's not just about the code, it's about the capabilities and stuff that are built into the application as well. So the idea that we would really like to have in place is that there are subject matter experts related to underground, the aspects of underground data management be part of the PSC. And they can be anybody. They do not need to be coders. It's not about that. It's about guiding the project so that it's being pushed along in the right direction, regardless of how the code kind of comes together.
What if GSAC wants a major, I don't know what it might be, a major piece of work to take it to another level, whatever that might be?
I think where Barb's trying to go, well, I'm assuming. But what I would try to pass along as an idea, Barb, in this circumstance, you could come knock on the, let's just say it's GSOC. You could come knock on the door at Share Geo and say, we want the following improvements to be done to the open source product that's out there. What's the price? So you could do it as a direct one-to-one contractor piece. The other potential way is more in line with what Bob was talking about. And this example I've used before, which is familiar in the Department of Transportation world, where one state does not have sufficient enough money to be able to do a project. Let's say it's a guardrail improvement, some kind of metal that they think is going to work better. And they can say, here's the project that we think needs to be done. We're able to chip in 30% of the price. And is there any other states out there that are willing to cough up money to do it? And so that could be a similar model for 811 centers. And I would suggest, for instance, in this case, given GSOC's long running effort in this, that they would serve, if you will, as the head of the consortium to make something like that work. And then you would pass that directly over to the project steering committee to do the work. So it's a twin model. You can either contract directly with any company out there that's used to doing open source work, or you can pass your work in through a project steering committee.
Thank you.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah, another piece to keep in mind there too is that there's no reason why a representative from either Gopher State and or OCC couldn't be as part of the PSC. In other words, they could be right on the voting committee right there and act as their liaison to each one of the organizations. Another further down list would be like the actual developers. When we actually do put this out as an open source project, there will be a mailing list out there. So you'll be able to actually mail in requests, issues, if you've got problems with the software, all those kinds of things, or if you have a wish list item that you want to push out and see what the community thinks about it before you actually do some kind of a formal request, you'll be able to do those kinds of things as well. So,
okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. Key takeaways. Again, to try to maybe drive home the point of the difference of what's going on here and, some subtle things. Site-Xray is the GSOC OCC implementation of FuzionView. Site-Xray is implemented inside of OCC's 811 system. And that is, if you will, when we originally started down this road, we were thinking they were going to run in parallel. But then as we got further and further into the project, we realized, I think Adam's vision from the very beginning was the correct one, that the FuzionView guts, if you will, would actually be incorporated directly into OCC's system. And so that's where we've ended up. FuzionView website will be the information hub for the open source project. Shared Geo will serve as the initial operational home for the open source project. Packaging, and you may hear this tossed around a little bit more today, but where we effectively are with the open source product is the code is done being built and it's in the process of being packaged. And that includes ensuring the latest version of each incorporated open source software has been used and respective restrictions are understood and documented. Well, what does that mean? It means that if you think of it like a football field, there is probably 80 yards of the football field are original FuzionView code, but there are certain instances where there will be little snippets of other pieces of code that have been used, and we have not only gone through a security review on the software, we're doing, if you will, a QA before we release it to ensure that any of the respective smaller itsy bits, 1 yard kind of pieces of soft open source software that are ultimately in FuzionView, that the licensing on that is understood and will be well documented. Project Steering Committee, standard operating procedures document is in draft. This will determine how the open source code is managed going forward. We think the estimated release date is the 29th of the month because none of us want to be working on the 31st. And there's currently no plan for project funding past the end of the year except for donations. It's estimated the annual code maintenance cost will be approximately $80,000 per year. And I think that concludes the key takeaways. And
I would like to add on that I'm going to throw out an invitation right now to everybody that's listening. If you have any interest in the project and moving it forward, into the future, anybody is invited to become a part of the PSC. So just reply back to me on an email, and we'll add you to the PSC.
Thank you, Bob. And I can confirm, over the years of working with Bob, that they're very interested in having a balance of not just programmers, but being able to get input from end users to know where things should be headed. So great comment. Thank you, Bob. Are there any questions? Going once, going twice. Okay. That takes us down to field data collector release plan and demo. Bob, I got kind of 4 setup slides for you in here. Do you want to do those? You want me to do them? What would you like to do?
You can go ahead. I've got my own slides. So when you're done.
Okay. Just as a reminder, just like we showed with FuzionView, there is an independent site for field data collector. We're really under the gun over here. We've got pretty much everything in place, with the exception of there's a video that Travis is working on that is on the cusp of being done. And then we've got some linking in here that still needs to be finished up. But again, here's where you would wander over to find the field data collector. The difference between FuzionView and this. FuzionView is obviously the element, the engine that pulls together all the respective utility data. This was more or less as Travis's baby from the beginning, that not only do we need to be able to do that, but we need to be able to put in information that is collected or collectible from the field that in many cases right now is not getting into the system or is not being available to be pulled into the system. So that's what field data collector is all about, funded entirely by one donation from PHMSA of $100,000, which got us to the point where you've got a working prototype and an understanding of what needs to be done to build it out fully. Here's an example. The web pages that you'll find in there. We'll walk you through about, demo, resources, donate, and contact. And what you'll find in here, and it will be direct links to getting in and getting a field data collector account, the ability to download the software off of GitHub, and then support continued development. That's a donation function. And then the need for implementation help. If you are interested in implementing this and need some help, give us a holler. And like I indicated earlier, there's also, just like there is with FuzionView, online documentation, which will allow you to come in and figure things out if you're, what do I want to say? If you're so inclined, let's just call it that way. Key takeaways: field data collector is being released as version 1.0 prototype with an extensive development plan, and you can find it on the website, which will take it to version 2.0, the originally envisioned end product. Packaging, same as it is over at FuzionView. Field data collector website will be the informational hub. Again, just like FuzionView, will be serving ShareGeo will be serving as the initial operational home. Project steering standard operating procedure document is in draft. Estimated release date. We more or less at Shared Geo need to make that release date because we have this PHMSA report that's due at the end of the month, and so we have to have a working website, be able to honestly report to PHMSA. And there's currently no plan for project funding past the end of the year except for donations again. And we're estimating it's an additional 100,000 to get us to where we'll get a product to version 2.0. So with that, I'll shut up. And Bob, you've got the slides. Let me stop it and you take it away.
See my screen okay?
You're good to go.
All right. So just a little bit of added information over what Steve mentioned there. FuzionView is all about taking the data from all of these different data providers that manage all this information out in the underground right away. Our field data collect is all about going in the other direction. So FuzionView is all about pushing all the data out to the end users, the excavators, the locators, and the planning and engineering folks. Field data collect is about being able to collect any information from the field and pushing that back upstream, hopefully back into the data, the data providers for the FuzionView system, as well as grabbing any information and making it available that is in an unknown kind of form. So if they find something out in the field that they weren't expecting, they can report that back upstream. So that's what the field data collect is all about. So I'm just going to run through a couple of slides here, and then I'll jump into a live demo afterwards. But the basics of it are that we've got this process that is going to be managed from the Shared Geo perspective. We're actually going to be running the field data collect server. So any data that gets uploaded will be on a server that Shared Geo will operate in the near term. Again, this is all a prototyping kind of process, but the idea here is that we're going to invite users to, we're looking for those pioneer partners again, same kind of deal that we've got with FuzionView or had with FuzionView. The same folks are interested in using this field data collect as well for moving the data in that direction, basically back upstream, and having that data available for their each of their own operations. There's all kinds of pieces to this that are related to connecting up to hardware out in the field and being able to collect the data from a locator's device, for example, or an excavator goes out and finds something that they weren't expecting. We want to be able to report that stuff back upstream. That's the general gist of field data collect. So you can do, the ideas down the line. Well, now you can actually, request a new ticket right through the system. It just jumps you over into the Gopher State One Call system. You can also do a strike report that also just jumps you over into the Gopher State system. And then the idea there is that you could jump through, and run into these different applications, and they're coming right out of the field data collect application that you can be using out in the field to collect the information. You can create new entities out in the feature. From the feature perspective, you can draw things that are related to any operations that you're doing out in the field. If you needed to record something that or mark a photo or a document to or tag it to a geolocation, you can do that. That's the kinds of things that field data collect is enabling. And then you can also upload files. You can, take photos out in the field, a video, any kind of file can be uploaded and tagged and linked into a particular ticket if you needed to, or just you can draw your own polygon inside of the field data collect and mark it that way as well. So the upload data is all going to reside on the Shared Geo server, and it's a separate service from FuzionView, so it's going to have its own login. And each user's uploaded data they'll have a control over anything that they upload. In other words, they'll be able to tell you who can share it, who the data can be shared with, and who can't see it, that kind of thing. So everything that's uploaded, it's going to be managed at security-wise based on the user that uploaded it. And then, you can actually bookmark tickets and all those kinds of things in there as well. I'm not going to get into the details of this. And then there's a full-fledged documentation, online documentations that is also going to be available with the project as it's released in the open source side. So you'll have a copy of this. This will also be linked in on .org sites that Steve was talking about. From a perspective of where we want to go with it, right now the Field Data Collect project is really demonstrating the uploading functionality and the login controlling aspects. So management of the user logins and uploading the data and keying it to their ownership criteria. That's what's there in place right now. There's some other things that we want to do. Is one of the bigger ones is being able to do some uploads directly from field devices that can actually do field locating out in the field, or GPS kind of controlled hardware. So you could do GPS tagging out in the field and actually be able to upload that data as a live kind of stream if you needed to. But the point of it is to be able to grab as much information in as varied of a format as possible. So, but down the line, we want to add a higher resolution aerial imagery, basically from the perspective of the guy out in the field as high as it can get. The bigger deal with that is making sure that you've got it registered correctly to the right coordinate system, so you're not distorting what they're looking at out in the field. But filling in missing parcel data for the state. We've got a state data set, but there's a couple of counties that don't really kind of join in with the state collation of the data. So there's some holes in the state data. Doesn't mean it's not available. It's just that there's an extra process to do that. So that's where we're going with that extra funding. Adding data pipelines for communicating and recording directly from various, that hardware thing that I was talking about, and the addition of other types of field collections like soil borings. There might be some other information that, that would be nice to have inside of a interface that people would be using for going out beforehand and kind of doing their planning, where they're going to dig. Are there any other things that might be in the way? And then, we really want to get into the 3D side of things, because I think that's where, business wise, we really need to kind of track things. The 3D map viewing aspect is going to be an important thing moving forward. And then there's probably potential here for building real apps in Apple and Android, but that's going to take quite a bit more funding if that was the way that the respective PSCs wanted to move. So we got that fieldDataCollector.org site that Steve talked about, and then I'm going to jump in here and kind of do a live jump into the app here. So I'm just logging in. You can see that this is all set up in a similar mapping interface that FuzionView is showing. And then you can actually go in, and I've got a bunch of records that I've actually gone through and actually attached different kinds of information to. And, the interface allows you to zoom into those things as a record that, that I've gone out there and actually looked at them before. And I can jump back and forth into these things, and you can see different pieces of information that have been added. So this one here, for example, has got a polygon that was drawn on top of it. There's things that you can go and grab that might have a document attached to it. So this one here has got a document attached to it. And you can see when you're looking at it that the documents are available. These are the different features that have been added to it, those kinds of things. So the whole idea behind the way this interface is kind of set up is that it's usable in a mobile form. So everything's on one screen on a per ticket basis in this particular instance. But the point of it is that the data is accessible out in the field, and it's an interactive system that you're looking at out in the field. So we've got, I talked about the, being able to go over to report a field strike. Right now, it's just a simple linking system that would jump over into the Gopher State 1 call. You can also go in and look at the documentation. You can jump over into Gopher State for a new ticket. We would ideally like in the future to be able to actually draw the polygon right on the map for the new ticket and actually push that into Gopher State 1 call. I think technically that's available, but it's not implemented at this time. That would take a little bit extra effort. But we've got all of the data pieces that are moving back and forth correctly, for each one of the things that are being uploaded from the field. So all of those kinds of things are available, and you can actually see them on the server, and they're stored there. So when you go and look at a photo, for example, you can see that the information where it was tagged, all that kind of stuff. So this is using a photo point here that you can see. And you can see all of the information that was pulled up for that particular feature. So it's got its own metadata that was attached to it. So I'm running through this real quick, but the idea here is that generally we're trying to build a system that can allow you to upload information that's related to underground ticket management and then be able to push that data back. One of the bigger deals here is that we're going to have a classification of data from the field that's going to be marked as unknown. The shared geo server will actually have a service available very similar to the way that the data is being pulled into the FuzionView system. Any system that FuzionView engine can be connected to could connect to an unknown version of data. So that's what we're going to be setting up in the shared geo server, is that there will be this service available that is going to show unknown information. It remains to be seen how we're going to be connecting that up into the FuzionView system, the Gopher State One call. But right now, this is being done as an independent project and kind of running on its own in parallel with FuzionView. So, but it can easily be made to be FuzionView ready for pulling the data in. Matter of fact, the data schema that we'll use initially will use the FuzionView data schema, so it won't be a problem connecting it in a future at a future point. So. And then there'd be other things too, like you might want to get into things beyond just unknown. There might be some things that you want to do from the planning perspective. There's other things that I'm probably not thinking about, but the initial part of it is that unknown aspect. But the data that is being pulled up out of the field too, because this is all set up at a user level, we can set it up so that there's mechanisms behind the scenes in the code to handle grouping of permissions. So if I'm a user inside of an organization, I can let my organization see everything that I've been uploading. And the idea there is that I can share any information that I upload from the field back into my own organization. So it doesn't need to be necessarily just for this unknown piece. It can be used inside of your organization as well. Again, we're just starting. We've got the basic mechanics of it working for uploading. And then the next phase of it would be to kind of finesse a lot of these potential business solutions, I guess you would say, for making the data upload and collection from the field much easier than it is right now. Any questions?
Thank you, Bob. We've got a note from Barb letting us know that she's going to be escaping at 12 or 2:15. So, Barb, I think let's turn the floor over to you, see if there's any questions for Barb at this point, and then we'll open the floor for the rest of the discussion. Anybody's got questions for myself, Bob, Sonia, Adam, or Kelly. So, Barb, you go first.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I don't have any questions on this. It's great progress, and I appreciate being at the meeting today. What I wanted to do was take a moment for us to recognize Steve. I know he doesn't like recognition very often, but Steve first started this interest in 2019. Went to a CGA meeting, came back, started talking with Dean Parker about it. I got wind of it a little bit, but I was busy on GSOC stuff. And then about a year later, Steve said, we really should do this. And so then in August of 2020, basically GSOC and with me as the GSOC point said, yes, let's go jump into this, not knowing what it was we were jumping into. So this whole effort is really Steve's brainchild, Steve driving it, us being active participants, pushing and pulling with all the different parts. But if it hadn't been for Steve with his expertise and the shared geo resources, which have done amazing things that with on a shoestring, I mean, I can't over exaggerate that enough. But I just think we should really recognize Steve for being the instigator by far, hands down, of this whole effort. We came along with him. We all have made it happen. But without Steve, it never would have even been a view of any of us, I don't think. So I just wanted to say that, Steve, and really appreciate your leadership on this. So thank you very much.
I'm lost for words, Barb. I appreciate that, but again, herd mentality comes up with the answer. It isn't just one person, and we all know too that everybody that's on this call, um, from devil's advocate to the cheerleaders, in every way, shape, or form has made this project happen. So I thank you for your kind comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I personally know that that's what happened. And I wanted the whole group to understand Steve's role in this as the visionary and with the knowledge of what is possible. And then he helped make it happen with Shared Geo. And we made it happen, all of us on the call and others, through perseverance and dialogue and collaboration and arguments and all that stuff that happens in a team. Before I had to run off here, I wanted to say that, Steve. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb.
Yeah.
Appreciate
it. I will sign off. Bye-bye.
Okay, Barb. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, after me having my face turn red, okay. The floor is open if there are any additional questions, comments, thoughts. And my favorite is death threats. Anybody got anything? Okay.
I'd like to go, you guys. Steve Rinks with American Surveying Engineering out of Chicago. I sit on the Julie board, which is the one call for the state of Illinois. And I know I've talked with you guys through the years. It seems like, another year has slipped away from us. And I'm still looking, advocating, getting you guys in front of the Julie board again and giving an update on your presentation. So you got a champion here in the state of Illinois. That's all I wanted to bring to your attention.
Much appreciated, Steve. I was down at the ILGISA conference. You know what that is?
No.
Illinois GIS Association conference held in Naperville back in, I think it was mid-October. Too many conferences or whatever. And you had your GIS rep walking around, and I went up and said something like, "Hey, were you in on the call the other day?" And he said, "Oh, that's way above my pay grade, but I know all about you guys." So, the word's spreading. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. You're welcome.
Any questions? Does this mean it's beer drinking time early?
It's only Thursday, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Darn it. Okay.
Steve, one thing I wanted to mention was, of course, I'm an old SAP consultant, and SAP has all these user groups. And I was thinking we might want to promote the idea of having stakeholder user groups to provide feedback to FuzionView.
Help me out.
So, for instance, we've got two companies, we've got locate service providers, we've got utility owners. They could form, a user group as a stakeholder group for feedback based on what their needs are, what their activities are using FuzionView. So if they want to see code changes or enhancements or something, it'd be one way to kind of centralize it. You wouldn't be inundated with 20 separate requests for the same thing. They could get together as a group and prioritize what they think they might want to see in FuzionView as the next iteration in 2.0, for instance.
So where would you suggest the nexus or the ignition point in that group would be? Who's the belly button?
Yeah, well, I think we'd have to go like a LinkedIn group or something like that and just kind of promote the idea. Just to get the word out about FuzionView for one, and the other is to like to see if we can get it to gel in terms of getting feedback. But we're kind of ahead of the game a little bit here. I think once you're out there in the marketplace and people are actively using it, and you've got users. Right now, you don't have any real users other than GSOC, so
Yeah, that's the old thing of you have to have your act together with your website and your forms and make sure all the boxes have been checked. And then press releases. I know OCC is going to do stuff. Uh, GSOC undoubtedly, and we'll be beating the drum for the open source side. So hopefully that'll help stimulate awareness. But again, we're still trying to clean stuff up so that we got an act that looks right and doesn't look like it's something that's going sideways.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, good comment though. Appreciate it. But we will beat the drum. Thank you, Steve.
No worries. Thank you for all the work you guys have done. That's really appreciated.
So, Steve, why don't you quickly mention to the group who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm the president of Sumdex. I put together, it started off as a Canadian initiative, but Jeff Zeiss put me on to Steve and Bob and Barb and said, hey, Minnesota's doing the same thing, so you might want to talk to those folks. And when I talked to Barb, she said, we're building this already. Why don't you just take advantage of it? It's open source and you guys can leverage it. So that's what we've been working on. So I said, well, I'll help with the marketing and getting the word out there and get involvement from stakeholders and see what we can do to help out. And right now that you guys have got a product out there, that or soon will be out there, I can actually start to beat the drum even louder and try and get some funding in for you guys as well. So I've got letters ready to go out. I just need a bunch of contact names, which I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 months now to try and get out there to the C-suite in these various companies.
I salute our kind friends north of the border. Hopefully they'll let you across the border if you choose to come. All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Kelly, I think that's going to take us down to the end here. Hold on a minute. I'll bring the slides back up. Unless you've got something else you'd like to chime in with, Kelly.
Nope.
We are. Am I in the share yet? Yep, we're sharing here. Okay, that was question and answer period. Kelly, Barb, Adam, Sonia. In fact, let's run down the list. Barb's gone. Adam, anything else you want to toss in? Last minute?
Nothing to add. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Sonia, are you still with us, or Adam put you back to work in the salt mines?
Yeah, no, nothing to add. And again, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you guys today.
Thank you, Sonia, for all your hard work. Bob, you got anything else you want to contribute?
Nothing specific other than the same statements I made for the FuzionView PSC apply to field data collect as well. So there's
Okay.
nothing barring anybody from being on either or both.
Got it.
PSCs. So
Appreciate that, Bob. Thank you. One last look. If you want to grab something, Barb put, she said, I think she said she put it in the chat, a corrected email address for her. One last chance to take a screenshot. Big thank you, reiterated. Kelly, final thoughts.
Not much. Just wanted to say thanks again to everybody for joining today and for all the work over the last few years to contribute to this and echo Barb's sentiments to Steve and Bob and the Shared Geo team as well. And that's all I have. Just a really big thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Okay, the last thought I have for you. Here you go. Change is the law of life, and those who look to the past, only to the past, or the present are certain to miss the future. JFK. Thanks, everybody. It was a fun 5 years. Take care.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Best of
Bye.
season, everyone.